There's a game I wish so badly that I could recommend that you play in 2020.
Dog's
but
Life.
it doesn't work anymore. No, don't go play A Dog's Life.
The PlayStation 2 was released in North America in the year 2000, making this incredible console 20 years old. From Final Fantasy X to God of War 2, we enjoyed hundreds of games in this console, including PS1 titles, thanks to its backwards compatibility. The fact that it's an older console means there have to be gamers out there that never played a single game from its massive catalog. Which ones are still worth playing now? We're going to be talking about that on a brand new episode of A Cast to the Past, with a brand new episode each and every Sunday talking about our favorite games and movies. And it is truly unbelievable that this incredible console with DVD compatibility is 20 years old. So we're going to be talking about that with yours truly, Juan Velas from Puerto Rico. Joining me from Boston, Massachusetts, we have Ryan McNulty. Now, Ryan, when you think about the PlayStation 2, does it feel like it's actually been 20 years since its original release?
It really doesn't, because I feel like the PlayStation 2 has remained relevant in my life it basically hasn't stopped being relevant to me, but it is crazy to think that it's now 20 years old, but thanks to backwards compatibility and re-releases of games, I've found myself continuing to play PlayStation 2 games, so it's never quite felt old to me, even now.
And from London, Ontario, we have Keith Hamilton. Same thing, man. The PS2 was a thing that was really special to us because the three of us bonded over the console. Now that it's 20 years old, how do you feel?
It makes me feel sad.
Right?
That means I'm old.
We are old.
Yeah, thanks for that. But it's exactly like Ryan said. With backwards compatibility being such a thing, it doesn't feel as old as it actually is, because a lot of the classics from this system truly are timeless. You just slap a new coat of paint on it or a paint of code on it, and then boom, you've got this game that still feels good to play today. So it's really helped it age gracefully.
Yeah, and everybody watching and listening, if you like what we do, remember, you can find us on YouTube. You can subscribe there. You can also leave a 5-star review on Stitcher, Facebook, all of that good stuff. But this is a console that, as both of you mentioned, the fact that it's been backwards compatible means that it really doesn't feel nearly as old as it does. And I think that a lot of games, you think about Kingdom Hearts, you think about God of War, there are many obvious games that were awesome in it, but the three of us, we also have an awesome contributor from our Discord. We selected one specific game that we wanted to recommend because, as we mentioned, there's probably a lot of people that just never experienced the PS2. So kicking it off hot and spicy with Mr. Hamilton, if you were to recommend one game for somebody to play this year, which would it be and why?
It's a game that really sits on the top of my list of timeless PS2 games, and I know it's an extremely critically acclaimed game, but if there's someone out there that has never played Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, stop this podcast, come back in 25 hours, and feel
should
what
I
I
walk away
feel.
now?
Yeah, just
And
go.
start
Just go play MGS3 instead of this episode. We'll get you next time. But I've mentioned it in the past, Metal Gear Solid is one of my favorite series ever. And this is the best one as far as I'm concerned. Yes, Metal Gear Solid 1 has a special place in my heart, but this takes what I love about Metal Gear and this was the perfect moment for it, where the backbone of Metal Gear is this kind of based in reality spy story that the details along the edges of it are just so insane that it's that's where the video gameness comes out of it. Okay, this game takes place during the Cold War era, and you play this super spy that's invading this Russian jungle to save a Russian scientist that wants to defect because he's creating a mass weapon. Seems pretty grounded, right? Probably happened a few times during the Cold War. But then once you get into the mission, things go bad. You kind of get beat up by a general that can shoot lightning. You have to fight a dude that shoots bees at people. His entire... he's a super soldier that is based off the fundamentals that he shoots bees at people. That is his thing. He is on the battleground just sicking bees on people. And he's one of the hardest bosses in that game. The pain can go S a D. But then you have all of this crazy stuff, and then Metal Gear Solid 3 just tells such a great story. In my opinion, it is one of the best stories ever in video games. The way that it ties itself together in this mentorship story that it tells, and the origins of one of the series' main characters going forward, and just, oh my god, that ending. If there's one thing that I would say that you need to see from this game, it is play it and then see that ending in context, and it is one of the most amazing things you will see in a video game. And now I know this game has been released, re-released a couple of times, and in a couple of like HD collections, so it is pretty accessible outside the PS2, but I honestly think there's a case worth making to just go play Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, a PS2 copy of it, because it comes with the base game Metal Gear Solid 3. If you play the Subsistence version, there's like upgrades to the controls, and they made the camera better, and you kind of get this little added bonus of being able to play the old MSX games on there as well. You can play Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2, not the NES versions, but the MSX versions, and kind of see where the what is the word I'm looking for? The series, the series started, and it's a neat little thing. There used to be a thing called Metal Gear Online there. It's long dead.
Oh, never forget. We played
Metal Gear
that a lot.
Online. We played it a lot. That was a thing where I think I convinced myself to like it more than I actually liked it, because it was Metal Gear. It was all right. Looking back, it was a solid meh, but because it had the name Metal Gear on it, I loved the living S out of it. But yes, go play Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Great game. Just ignore the bee man. Kill the bee man. Would you say
that it's scary for somebody that's never played a Metal Gear Solid game, or just any kind of game like this? And for context, I mean, there's a lot of cutscenes, to the point that Keith has my copy from a version of the game that came with only the cutscenes, and it's like a 7-hour long thing. It includes some gameplay and all that, but it's like a super lengthy thing, right?
It's not as bad as you make it out to be, because like Metal Gear Solid goes off a cliff with that stuff, to the point where there's a 2-hour cutscene in Metal Gear Solid 4. But
literally, people.
Yeah, a literal 2-hour cutscene. But the way that it's paced in 3, I think that's when it was at its best, because yes, you're getting the long cutscenes, and you're getting basically the giant presentations of just bullet points of explaining and over contextualizing things, but the action in between it is just so good that you just want to get back to it. And some of the scenes in there are just like, they're over the top, but over the top in a good way, where it's fun to see the lightning bolt Colonel man get hit by a lightning bolt and be fireworks for a kiss at the end of a boss fight, because his body's exploding in electrical bolts and he's fireworks from it. And then there's this great like chase in it that's half cutscene, half gameplay that is just so good. It found that sweet balance of Metal Gear that I don't think they ever found again in the series. But yeah, high point for the series right here.
Ryan, have you ever played any of the Metal Gear Solid games? I forget.
So the original one, I played the PS1 version of Metal Gear Solid. That's the only one I've played, but I do own 2 and 3, and I've just never gotten around to playing it. They're on the shelf directly behind me.
Well,
I need to get to it.
Guess we're gonna have to fix that.
We could just do Twin Snakes, because that's also like a GameCube version, and you like that game. I mean, you like the GameCube, so.
I'm not rolling with this again.
Oh, damn it.
No, I'm not even, no.
No, Metal Gear Solid 3, I actually did play it. I've beaten almost every Metal Gear Solid game except for 3. There was something about that game that for me it just didn't click as well as other ones, but I completely understand why, you freaking love it. The soundtrack is amazing. The atmosphere.
Snake Eater is easily one of the best video games songs ever, but oh my god, that ending is so good.
Don't spoil it, man.
I'm not going to spoil anything.
You gotta savor it for somebody that hasn't played it.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it, but I will say, I will go on record, I will sign my life away and say it is probably the best ending in video game history.
People, we got a statement there. Do you agree or disagree? Because this is a very recognizable franchise, and thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Hamilton. Now,
you're quite welcome.
Now, Ryan, in your case, which game do you got coming up?
So I'm going with a little bit of a game that kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, but was really the start of a series of games that were released by the developer Quantic Dream that I would hope to see continue more and see more of. But anyway, the game that I chose is in America known as Indigo Prophecy, but also known as Fahrenheit, I think, internationally.
Correct.
And this is a paranormal thriller, but more of like an interactive movie style of game. And essentially, you start out as this character, Lucas, who's chilling in a diner, and all of a sudden, he is like essentially mind controlled and ends up murdering someone, and he has no idea what the hell's going on. But you're unraveling this kind of sci-fi mystery playing as multiple characters, including Lucas and cops as well, and kind of getting different sides of the story to unravel this crazy sci-fi mystery that gets really batshit crazy towards the end, not gonna lie. It also really is, it's 2005 when this came out, so yeah, it's got some Matrixy cringe in there, not gonna lie. But if you can overlook that, it's really the start of a really cool series, because as we know, this developer went on to make games like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. Jason. But yeah, this is a great game for the PS2. It is on other systems as well, but I first experienced it on the PlayStation 2. I believe there is also a remastered port you can play on the PS4 now, and I think some other platforms as well. So
how did you first find out about it? Because it's not exactly an obvious game that you see on the shelf and want to get it. I first
found out about it. I had a roommate in college who had a bunch of PlayStation 2 games that, I had a limited knowledge of the library of PS2, honestly, because I spent most of this generation with a GameCube and an Xbox. And it wasn't until I wanted to play SmackDown 06 with you guys that I ended up eventually getting a PS2.
Yeah. Right. I remember us talking about that.
Yeah. So I held out for a while. Also, I don't know how old I was, but I didn't have a lot of money. Basically, I couldn't buy one at the time. But yeah, he had a number of games. That's how I got introduced to like Silent Hill and Shadow of the Colossus and Okami. So a lot of those PS2 games. But Indigo Prophecy was definitely a more unique one. And this was right before, I believe, Heavy Rain came out, or right around that time that I played it. So I kind of played the two games close to each other. But Indigo Prophecy was a really cool start to that type of genre, at least on that system. I had never seen or played anything like that before. I know the arcade games had some similar things with Dragon something?
Dragon's Lair?
Dragon's Lair, yes.
Right, Dragon's Lair,
the arcade version of Dragon's Lair was basically that interactive movie style, and this kind of took it to a whole new level that I thought was really cool. And there's like branching story paths within this game, so it's a super cool game. I don't want to spoil too much of the story, and it's crazy and it's a lot to get into anyway. Probably not as complicated as MGS, but still gets a little out there more than you would expect.
From the gameplay standpoint, is it, I don't want to say a walking simulator, but what do you sort of do? Like, what's the gist of it from a gameplay standpoint?
So there's a lot of times where you are your character just interacting with the environment, just walking around. But obviously when you go into these sort of battle sequences, that's when the game is centered around like quick time events, basically,
Okay.
where a lot of games would use this, Resident Evil 4 I know was famous for implementing it into random kind of scenes in its game in like in the cutscenes rather almost, but this was any battle type scenario, any like chase scene or whatever, any like action scene was heavily done with these quick time events. So when a game's really built around it, I think it works. Sometimes it's hit or miss when it's just kind of thrown into the gameplay, because after Resident Evil did it, it seemed like everybody was throwing it in and it didn't necessarily always fit. But when a game is built around it, I do think it can work.
Does Heavy Rain play exactly like Fahrenheit? Because I've never checked out this game either. I didn't know it existed until after I played Heavy Rain, and then just going back was tough. But are they pretty much like control-wise the same idea?
Yeah, they're very similar. I think Heavy Rain does a lot to smooth things out, but Fahrenheit, Indigo Prophecy, whatever you want to call it, is definitely still very playable and worth visiting.
Okay.
Yeah, those are games that I never played, but I feel like now, and I think we talked about this like about a year ago, these were games that were sort of like hidden gems or underrated titles for the consoles, but I feel like now you've gotten a lot of re-releases. There's PC ports. People modify a lot of these games, so it's like a really good incentive to be able to just appreciate the fact that, hey, if you like Heavy Rain, you go back an entire generation, and there is a game like that. And I think they fully embraced Fahrenheit as a game now, like in terms of Indigo Prophecy, because I remember the PC version, I believe, has always been called Fahrenheit, but because of a lot of things that happened, terrorism, etc., they changed the name to make it a little bit friendlier there. But if anybody's played either by the name of Indigo or Fahrenheit, please hit us up on Twitter. Ryan's there at the Ryan McNulty. You can also find us on Twitter at acasttothepast. And before we get to my pick, going over to our Discord, which is acasttothepast.com/Discord, Ace Bunny wrote a couple of different games, and including, he said, I've got many PS2 games that still rock today, like Kingdom Hearts 2, Final Fantasy X, 10-2, and 12, and others that I need to continue thinking about. Now, when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, I think it is like, there are like 20 different ways to play these damn games. There's like 1.5, there's the 1.5 Unleashed, 4K, 3D,
like, thank God for
whatever.
Wikipedia, because that's the only way I can figure out. Because, now there's like the story so far and Kingdom Hearts
like a complete
2.8.
story now. Yeah, there is like 2 versions of that. It's crazy. Did you guys ever play Kingdom Hearts or any of them?
Oh yeah, I love Kingdom Hearts. I love the mainline Kingdom Hearts games. I've beaten 1 and 2. I still haven't touched 3. It's just a matter of JRPGs are difficult to commit to at this point in my life, but I'll play 3 one day. I know that. And just great games. It's deceptive how great the story is, because you kind of see it and you think like, oh, okay, here's Mickey Mouse hanging out with Cloud and they're going to go on whatever adventure. But it's like, it's a really deep story and it's really good. It's just straight up good. They managed to make it work with Auron from Final Fantasy X hanging out with Hades from, well, hell, figure that one out. And then just a way to make it all combined together in this nice little story that makes sense inside the context of a Disney movie that you're playing in and in the overall Kingdom Hearts universe. And then near the end of those games, it just jumps off a cliff and gets all JRPG to the max. They're wonderful games.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the mechanics, because I have the collection that has everything except just before 3, and I think they are a little bit on the stiff side. But this last game is a game that I played on the PS2, I played it on the PS3, and I played the PlayStation 4 remake, and this is maybe the definitive game that I love to play on the PS2, and that is Shadow of the Colossus. So this is a game that, for those that haven't played it, I think I said it before, it's boss battle the game. The whole purpose is that You have one mission, and that's to take down different colossus. So you do nothing else in between rather than just explore the world. You ride your horse, you identify where the colossus are. And what I love is that these are not your traditional battles where you hack and slash and you eventually beat the enemy and you move on to the next one. The way this game works is that you have a colossus that's super huge, so you got to climb him. But how do you actually do that? Where's the weak spot? There's another colossus that you got to figure out how the hell do you climb him? There's nothing to grab onto, but then you figure out, oh, I got to wait for his sword to strike. I got to climb the damn sword, hope I don't fall off, and eventually you get to that sweet spot. And once you get to that, you begin to deliver your damage. And I completely understand why this game first got a HD. They got an HD version on the PlayStation 3, which is the main one that I played. And that one comes with two games. It comes with Ico, which a lot of people know about. They technically have a third game that's in the scope of the world, and that is The Last Guardian. I
haven't played that. I
tried it.
Yeah.
You know,
it is right.
That is the perfect example of I was playing it, and I'm like, I love it. I love this game because I love Shadow of the Colossus. I hate it. There's just something that did not click.
It's
yet
your
I
Metal
love
Gear
Ico.
Online.
It took forever to come out too.
Yeah, it did take forever. But Metal Gear Online still had the redeeming quality that I could play with you as a friend. I was playing by myself with this one.
Ico is like, I played it once and I'm like, okay, I don't think I ever need to play that again because that one's a very frustrating one too. But yeah, really, Shadow of the Colossus was the nice sweet spot that they found.
And what I loved about both games is that they were very simplistic. One is escape, right? With Ico, that's pretty much the entire game. You grab the girl, you try to run away. With here, there's the different battles. And with the PS2 version, I would not suggest you go back to that one because you could definitely tell they were very hungry and eager to make this game, but the console's hardware capabilities weren't exactly there, so the frame rate is awful. Even on the PS3 version, the frame rate is just okay. Now, when you talk about the version on the PS4, I played the Pro version. My goodness, people, that is just a beautiful game. And I think there's a lot to say that, you know, despite the evolutions, the gameplay is still pretty much the same. So they knew going in, look, the gameplay is awesome. Maybe the hardware of it was not great. And if you're subscribed to PlayStation Plus, hopefully you picked it up when they actually gave it for free a couple of months ago. I forget when it was, but it was available there. But really, all in all, it doesn't matter which version you get of this game. I hate that we don't have a lot more games like this where it is just one objective. It is one type of gameplay, but they get so damn creative with having you just sit there and analyze the enemy. I know I gotta kill you, but how? How do I actually get to that point? Once you get there, it's pretty much the same thing. You hit the enemy 3 to 4 times, you're good to go. But the entire journey of actually getting to them and witnessing this empty world that is just beautiful, despite the fact that really not much is going on, is what made me fall in love with it. And I've beaten the game like 3 times. So, Ryan, I know you freaking love this game as well, right? So could you talk about what you think of it?
Yeah, I love this game. Like you said, there's no filler. It's all boss battles. Each boss battle is its own puzzle, and each one is relatively unique in how you defeat it. So there's a lot to try and figure out. Some of the boss fights, like when you don't know what to do, can be quite difficult, and some of them are much more obscure than others. But it is such a fun game, and like you said, I think back in the PS2 era, they were almost too ambitious with the scope of, you know, the Colossus, because they do a great job of making them really feel huge. But as you said, the frame rate definitely suffers for it. So I'm glad that they've continued to enhance this game. They've recognized that this game, even PS3, never truly was put to its full potential. I mean, that's what you got to think about a game, right? The fact that how ambitious were they in PS2 that this game was so awesome, but they had to keep re-releasing it for years until
PS5,
it was fine.
PS5.
It took the PS4 to finally put this game like in its proper state, like the way that it should be. Like that's how ambitious they were, basically. But like you said, all versions are playable. I would definitely love to play the PS4 version. I'm guessing there's even a difference between, like you say, a lot of the examples you're showing in the video version are for the PS4 Pro. So there's probably even a significant difference between PS4 and PS4 Pro on this game.
Yeah, they actually allow you to choose the priority of its resolution or frame rate. For me, I personally prefer way more frame rate rather than
Agreed.
resolution.
You've made
and
the
looking
right
at that
choice.
game, yeah, and dude, buttery smooth, 60 FPS, Colossi battles doesn't get a lot better.
Yes,
than
I
that.
also love how the colors aren't quite as washed out in the, like they did a better job on the colors for the PS4 version as well, because that was always a thing that it seemed like, do I have like the gamma on my TV too high or something? Like what's going on here?
Yeah. So Keith, have you played Shadow?
Not as much as I should. I played the PS2 version a long time ago and got about 2 Colossi in and then just kind of put it down and never picked it back up again. But it's something I've always wanted to go back and check out. And I know I need to. It's one of those games that's just like a big, you need to play this style game. But never really got into it. I respect it from a distance though, and I'd like to go back a little bit to a point you made about being disappointed that more games aren't like this. I actually think it works out well in its favor that there's not a lot of games like this, because we see so many examples in the video game industry of just like an idea being beaten to death. Like imagine there was a time when we used to say that about roguelikes, like, oh, I wish there were more roguelikes out there. Fast forward 10 years and everything's a roguelike these days. The fact that there is this beautiful game that kind of sits on its own mountain, like, yes, there are games that tried to do it. I don't think they succeeded as well, but they're good in their own right. But it's just this thing that's never been able to be replicated since. The only time that it comes close to that feeling again is when it gets re-released and it just looks better. It's something really special, and it's probably something we talk about a lot in this episode about things that stand the test of time. Shadow of the Colossus, I think, is the video game that stands the test of time, especially from the PS2 era.
Absolutely. And people, those are just 3 games. We could talk about this. I'm even listening to my voice at this point. We could talk about this for many hours because, you talk about Need for Speed Underground, Tony Hawk, from the third one all the way up to that.
Can I sidetrack for a minute?
Of course,
because there's something in this topic that just makes me really sad to think about, because there's a game I wish so badly that I could recommend that you play in 2020.
Dog's
but
Life.
it doesn't work anymore. No, don't go play A Dog's Life. I wish with all of my heart, all of my black heart, that I could sit here and tell you to go play Resident Evil Outbreak. I want to tell you that so bad, but it doesn't work anymore, and it breaks my heart.
R.I.P. servers.
I love you, Resident Evil Outbreak, and I wish I could spread your good word. I know there's ways to play you that aren't exactly legitimate, but I love you, and I miss you, and I want you again.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Resident Evil Outbreak was a 4-player online co-op Resident Evil game with tank control. So don't think about like RE4, RE5, 6, and all that. This was straight up the original type of RE game. And we pretty much bonded as friends through this game. And
there was a large chunk of our life where it'd be like, oh, okay, we would get online at the end of our day and then like go play a mission. Like, hey, let's catch up. What'd you do today? And we'd catch up over a round of decisions. And then,
oh man,
yeah.
Man, we gotta stop talking about this before I start crying now. But people, if you would like us to know which are some of the games that you recommend some people play in 2020, once again, reach out on Twitter, A Cast to the Past. You can also comment on the YouTube version, and if you like what we do, we can subscribe. You can subscribe. We can subscribe as well, but you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave a 5-star review on any of the apps of your choosing. We are available on Spotify. So if you like to listen to some of that music and you want to switch over to Mr. Keith Hamilton, you can do that without having to switch to another app. So up until next time, this has been another exciting episode of A Cast
To the
Pass.
Keith.
1. make sure that you select UBCS1. We need that AIDS spray.